Please welcome Toma Sharon.
Thank you. Will smiled at the woman coding next to him. Hey, thanks for the assist. I love hackathons. The woman grinned back, pulling off an MIT sweatshirt. I've only ever done hackathons with BGC, Black Girls Code. I thought it might be time to branch out a bit, though. If women of color are going to take their place in digital space, it means broadening our scope. Big plans, huh? Her smile was wide, and her expression was determined. Huge plans. He felt a sense of kinship. Me too. Zuckerberg, look out. She laughed. I've been going to meetups, events, and hackathons for the past few years, making connections, he said. I want to learn as much cool new technology as possible. Come up with any ideas? I've got an automated build server. I've written my own specialized profiler, and I've got an open source project on GitHub. Of course, none of it had the hockey stick growth curve that he'd been hoping for, but he was still plugging away. How about you? She shook her head. Still figuring it out, she wrinkled her nose. I have this bad habit of getting really picky and perfectionist, especially in my last stages. My sister says it's a form of self-sabotage. Hey, we all make mistakes, he said. I lost a week of work to a botched commit and had to rewrite all of it twice. I hate when that happens. You've got great coding skills, he noticed. We work well together. We should totally work on a project. What do you say? Yeah, sure, why not? She shook his hand, a firm handshake that meant business. I can show you what I'm working on right now, he said, opening his laptop. Hey, that's really good, she said, after scanning the lines. Then she frowned. You put this on Reddit? Yeah, so? She shook her head. Dude, there's got to be a better way to share this stuff. 7 months later. I'm telling you, this is the Facebook of note-taking, Will said. They told us not to call it that, Dana said. At that meetup, remember? After befriending and working with Will, they'd made a good connection, and they co-founded NoDo 6 months ago. They came up with the idea because Will's note-taking was very inefficient. They figured that, on average, they shared 80% of their code-related notes with friends and colleagues. When they'd come up with the app, it seemed like the perfect solution. It's great, Will said, steamrolling over the point, especially for a minimum viable product. It's more than ready for a launch. She agreed, feeling some excitement. She was all about lean principles. I've got a landing page set up, she said. The analytics are in place, and we'll be collecting emails from people who are interested in learning when the app's ready to roll out. Awesome, Will said. I'll start whiteboarding the app model. Dana felt a twinge of caution, but figured it was just nerves. The landing page went live, and they were off and running. I think we need to get out of the building, Will mused. That might not be a bad idea, she muttered. We've spent the past 4 days straight trying to decide between native code, hybrid app, or a really mobile-friendly web app. We're crossing into obsession territory. I swear, I'm even dreaming NoDo. Dana rubbed her temples. I'm not sleeping well. Hey, I'm not sleeping well either, but that's not what I meant, Will said. I heard that this meetup I went to a few days ago, get out of the building. It means, talking with users, stuff like that. Talk with them about what? Will shrugged. If they buy our app, if they pay for it, how much they pay for it, that kind of thing. That makes sense, she said. Who do you have in mind? Just a few people, maybe my parents, your sister? I've got a few friends over at BGC we could ask, she added. I think about 7 would be a representative number, he said, feeling confident. Then we'll find out what they say. After a few days, Will reported back. They all liked it. They thought it was a great idea, they'd use it and pay for it. Dana smiled. We can't lose. Dana scanned the screen. We're all over TechCrunch. Will was practically doing a victory dance. We are killing it. She threw her hands up. Boom. We have no competition, Will crowed. She scrolled through the mentions. We're going viral for this category. I don't think anything else like it exists. All we need is 1% market share, Will said, and he got that look in his eyes, the one that said he was already envisioning how he was going to spend the IPO money. We're social, mobile, local, international, lean. She started to shift from the mentions to the actual analytics and felt her buoyant attitude start to sink. Will didn't notice. We are Zuckerberging it. All those investors who turned us down just don't get it, he grinned. $1 billion company, baby. Nothing's gonna stop us. Well, there's one thing, Dana said, her voice low. First to market, double boom, Will. He stopped mid-cheer. What? Why do people sign up for NoDo, she pointed out, and then not use it? I don't know how this happened, Will said, poring over the spreadsheets. The $200,000 we got as seed money is just about gone, Dana said. We are crashing and burning. The numbers are horrible, he muttered, looking at them for the 50th time, as if they'd somehow start making sense and point out where they jumped the tracks. Low retention, low engagement. People use it once or twice, then don't come back, Dana added. Sessions are too short, not meaningful, he said. They're not creating a lot of notes, and less than 1% are sharing them. I thought sharing would be the best thing. Facebook for notes, Dana said mournfully. What should we do now? It's got to be an execution thing, Will said sharply. Hey, we made some bad code-related decisions that slowed things down, Dana said, her eyes glinting with temper. But I don't think that's the only thing that went wrong here. He sighed. Maybe we just walk away, try something new. Just because it didn't work right away doesn't mean we just quit, she said. We don't just run away, we can start over. He didn't want to start over if it wasn't going to be a guaranteed winner. But the part about running away stung. He'd stepped away from plenty of projects, sure, but running away sounded bad. Maybe we just can't work together, he snapped, then immediately felt badly. Okay, now I am going to get out of the building, she shot back, and when I get back, you'll be here and ready to work, or you'll be running. Right now, I don't care which, and she slammed the door behind her.
I fall and get back up again onto the next adventure. The cycle never ends, but my dreams are always on my mind. Although it hurts to fade, I know I have to.
Low engagement, low retention. That can only mean one thing. Clark, a startup weekend mentor, said to Will and Dana over lunch. What's that? Dana asked. Your product sucks. Will coughed on his iced tea. Dana pulled her lips into a tight line. She and Will had sworn to stick with NoDo, but looked for more outside guidance to help them identify what the real problem was. Still, this wasn't what she'd expected. Our product is great, Will countered. All we need is more users, so Clark held up a hand. I love how passionate you guys are, and I know this is the last thing you want to hear, but you're wrong. Your product is fundamentally broken. Will's expression was mutinous. A blonde woman with a stylish purple shirt stepped up to their table. Guys, this is Jennifer, Clark said, motioning for the woman to join them. She's a user researcher from Google, and she's helped a lot of startups. I want you to talk to her. What problem does NoDo solve for people? Jennifer asked. Dana could tell Will was growing more and more irritated, so she answered. NoDo creates a need. It's not about solving an existing problem necessarily. We provide our users with a note-taking experience that leaves them speechless. In a good way, she added with a smile. Jennifer smiled back. Still, bottom line, you're not solving a problem. I don't understand, Will finally interjected. What's the problem? A lot of people told us they loved the idea and that they would be willing to pay $5 for the app. It's an execution flaw. Aren't we supposed to talk about how to make the UI look better? We are going to make the design better, Jennifer said. But first, a few questions. Dana could practically hear Will grinding his teeth. She glared at him, and he fell silent. When you first came up with the idea for NoDo, Jennifer continued, how did you know people really needed it? I'm not sure we really knew the answer back then, Dana answered. I definitely knew the answer, Will snapped. I knew I would be a customer, so others must be interested too. 100% of the people we talked with said that they liked the idea. For me, the needs were validated. Dana looked at Jennifer, hoping the woman wasn't getting offended. Jennifer seemed to simply be listening patiently. Besides, we found a very efficient way for saving and serving user content across social platforms, Will continued. I still believe this is a better way to process data in apps. Smart people invested in you, Jennifer said, and Dana was relieved when Will calmed down somewhat. There's probably something there, but you two have to find it. I'm here to help you do that, but you've got to work with me and follow my lead. Now, are you in for the ride? Dana nodded. Will, she noticed, was still grimacing, his arms crossed in front of his chest. After you guys gave me the go-ahead, we launched a user testing study with 6 participants, Jennifer said, queuing up videos on a laptop in their conference room. They were asked to complete 3 basic tasks with NoDo. Sign in, create a list, and share a list with a friend. There were a few other things they could do, but those 3 were the most important. Dana sat at the table next to Will, who was still irritated, she noticed. Now, I want you to write down 3 big things you learn as you watch the videos, Jennifer said with a big smile. Dana paid attention and hoped Will was as well. She also hoped it wouldn't take too long. Fortunately, most of the videos were short, only about 3 minutes, maybe a bit more. The longest one was maybe 15 minutes. Still, she could feel Will getting more and more angry as the videos went on. Finally, it was over, and Jennifer looked over at them. So, Will, what did you think? Jennifer asked, her expression curious but otherwise neutral. I can't believe we didn't do anything like this before, he said in a low voice. It was kind of painful to watch, Dana admitted. Why had they thought friends and family would be good enough for this kind of research? It felt like a slap in my face, Will continued. Most of the time, I felt like either holding my head or banging it on the table. Dana felt some tension ease in her chest. She was afraid Will would just flat out refuse to work with Jennifer. But based on his comments, at least it sounded like he was seeing just how badly they needed what she offered. Still, Will said, it was just 6 people. Can we really make a deal about this data? You'd be surprised, Jennifer said. What did you learn? Will looked down at the notes he'd hastily scrawled. The onboarding funnel is buggy. It doesn't explain what NoDo is in terms people understand, and it's too long, which makes people doubt that they'd use it. Those are easy to fix, Jennifer assured him. Anything else? Dana cleared her throat. This is probably stupid, she said tentatively. But did you notice that 4 of the women mentioned that they created grocery shopping lists for their husbands so they know what to buy? Will snorted with contempt, and Dana shrank a bit, embarrassed. I noticed that too, Jennifer mused. Maybe we should look into it. I can't believe we're going in this direction, Will muttered. I think it's a good focus to try, Dana said. The new app will support list sharing, updating the list with new items, list update notification. For a situation where the husband is already at the store, Jennifer cut in. Right, and sending item photos from husband to wife to make sure the right item is purchased. Also, some cool emoticons sent from the wife to the husband to indicate if the photo is for the right item to buy. I just don't see why that would be necessary, Will said. Dana rolled her eyes. Remember that time I asked you to pick up some laser toner and you got the wrong one twice? First the wrong brand, then for the wrong printer? Will grumped, but she had a point. I'm just not thrilled that the focus is on such a small niche of households. You know, where the wife is making lists for the husband, he said. To pivot. But you're right, we've got to pivot. The original idea wasn't working. Also, I'm glad we're doing something a little more technologically challenging. I'm glad you're more on board, Dana said. A few weeks later, they were back to the drawing board, or in their case, the conference room. The pivot was a disaster, Dana said, crumbling a sheet of paper. Husbands felt like they were doing just fine without the app, and wives felt we were saying they were control freaks, or that husbands couldn't do anything right. Nobody needed nor wanted this app. She put her head in her hands. This was a total fiasco. Was this thing ever going to work? Well, look on the bright side, Will said. At least we got the user testing right and figured it out before it got too far. Don't give up yet, guys, Jennifer said. I know it looks bad, but hang in there. We're still zeroing in on the needs. Keep digging. What are we doing here? Will whispered to Dana. First-hand observation, she whispered back. Dana felt sure that even if the shopping list angle wasn't the right one, there was still something with shopping that NoDo might help out with. So they were spending a few hours with Lisa, a research subject, and their 2 kids as they went grocery shopping. Let's see, cereal. Mark, put that down, Lisa said to her son, a friendly and rambunctious 5-year-old who insisted on helping. He was putting things in the cart that weren't on the list, but had caught his eye. His sister Jessica was 3 and riding the front of the cart. She kept trying to talk to Lisa, who was having difficulty checking off her items. But I want the cereal with marshmallows, Mark whined. Already hurried, Lisa snapped. I said no. Now put them back. Mark burst into tears and started stamping his feet. Lisa sighed, rubbing her hand over her face before cajoling her son back into semblance of calm. Will looked shocked. Dana could immediately tell food shopping with children was a particularly challenging chore. They then went to Lisa's house immediately after to see how the chore completed. The kids were running around as Lisa scrambled to put away the bags of groceries. As she moved the jar into the fridge to put some things away, she sighed loudly. Peanut butter. My husband should have told me we were out. I didn't have it on my list. Now that'll mean another trip. Dana frowned. She felt badly. It was obvious that Lisa needed help. When they got back to their car, Will collapsed into the seat with a sigh. How many more of these do we have to go to do? 5, she said, looking at her notes. We still have Jenny, Mary, Alicia, Cara, and Billy to go. Oh, man. Okay. Jennifer said we should work with Clay Christensen's jobs framework for product design, Dana said, after they'd done all the research. Will was grateful to be back in the office. The trips with the families had been grueling, to say the least. Still, some of what they'd seen had been eye-opening. It had made a difference to get the real-world study and see what the needs really were. We want to look at it from a motivation, goal, and intended outcome viewpoint, Will said. We can design each problem in a job, Dana added. She walked over to the whiteboard, writing, when, I want to, so I can. I noticed that for Lisa, she was upset when she got home to find the peanut butter nearly empty, Dana said, picking up a marker. So at home, when a grocery item is out, she wrote underneath, I want to be notified so I can buy a new one at the store. I saw that the kids often had meltdowns when they were being ignored or told no, Dana said, writing another line. A lot of the parents were impatient, then felt badly about it, or said that they were really trying to keep it together. Maybe we can work with that. So at the store, when my child has a tantrum, I want to better control myself so I can be a better role model. And when they got back, they were usually trying to keep track of their kids and get all the groceries put away, Will added, getting into the spirit of it. When I'm back from the store, I want the kids to help so I can, what? So I can do it quickly, Dana wrote in. And so they can learn a life lesson. They surveyed the board. We may be onto something here, Will mused. I came up with the idea after going with my friend Joanne and her son Zach to a local grocery store, Dana said, excitement in her voice, as she and Will spoke with Clark. That was a nightmare, even after our 6 test subjects. Zach kept screaming, crying, and generally preventing Joanne from finding what she wanted to buy at the store. We decided to take everything we learned from research and build an MVP for a shopping cart app for kids. Will said, showing the app to Clark. The idea was to give kids responsibility over parts of grocery shopping, like managing home inventory, getting groceries at the store, and unpacking them at home. There are pictures and a clickable list for them to use. Big icons, really easy to understand, Dana continued. I had Joanne try it. Zach was so eager to help, and it was so easy to use, she was able to make it fun for him, like a game. And she was able to get all her shopping done much more easily and quickly. She's even got him helping at home with putting away using the app. Clark grinned broadly. Sounds like you've got a winner, he said. Well, we'll know soon enough, Dana said, feeling pride warm her chest. The user's testing is certainly pointing that way, Will said to Dana's surprise. He'd gone from a scowling doubter to a full-blown convert, and the product seemed to be showing the benefits of his change in attitude. Grocerio is a huge success, Dana crowed. Will beamed. Their app's launch had gone very, very well. Acceptance was overwhelming, and the ratings were in the sky. Reviews were great too. Now, investors were starting to show interest. Most importantly, users were coming back highly engaged and satisfied. Facebook of note-taking, huh? He said ruefully, and Dana laughed. What were we thinking? Doesn't matter, Dana said. We're on an elevator to meet with Jeff Clavier, founder and managing partner of Softtech VC. Will grinned. Softtech was one of the most established seed VC firms in Silicon Valley. Big dreams, huh? She smiled back. huge.
Dreams, dreams, dreams. I wish I could be who I wanna
Hey guys. Hi, my name is Tomer. I'm a senior user researcher at Google on Google Search, have been in the past 7 years. And I'm very happy to be here in Manchester and back in the UK. Last time I was here was a long time ago. Anybody recognizes the place? No, that's Nebworth Park. My wife and I went there 12 years ago to watch a Robbie Williams concert. So before I move on, just a very quick thank you to my partners in crime. Damn, you can't see it. Angela, search software engineer, and Brett is a product operations manager on Google, at Google NYC. Mr. Superman is both a photographer who took all of these shots except the ones he appears on, which I took, and also a technical specialist at Google. And Lisa works with me. She's a search UX writer. Music by Michael Hensley is a musician and a designer from Boston. And Kathy, whom, without her help, this was not a story. It was a really bad thing. And thank you to WeWork, one of their buildings in New York, for allowing us to shoot everything there. So I want to tell you a little bit about the story behind the story, and then we'll move on to some lessons from the story. So I think it was 3 and something years ago, I wrote this thing. By the way, how many of you, I'll get closer, how many of you, raise your hand if you have research or researcher in your job title? Raise your hand. Okay, so this book is for you. All the rest, don't buy it. My publisher doesn't like me saying that, but it's true. It's a book for people who do research as a full or part-time job. And it's supposed to help them with a problem that I have, and I'm sure other people have because I've researched it, that people don't want to do research. And if they do want to do research, when they see the results, they don't want to act on the results. So this is supposed to help with this problem. I'm telling you about this book because right when it was published, I think the week it was published, I started thinking about the second book and last book. I'm not going to do this thing ever again. And I wasn't actually thinking about a book. I was very curious about something that went through my mind. I started talking and interviewing with eventually 200 startup founders and enterprise product managers. And I wanted to know a couple of things. I wanted to know, where did the idea for the product startup company feature came from? And this is what I found. 86% of them told me that the idea came from personal pain, something that they felt was wrong in their lives, and they wanted to fix it. Okay? Only 2% went to research to help with finding an idea for a feature or product or company. So that's one thing I found. The other thing, and this is the primary thing I was interested in, is the questions that they ask themselves about their users or potential users at any stage of creating the company, building a product or a feature or a service. And I found some interesting things. So these are just the top 6. My conclusion from that is that, and that surprised me, I must admit, they're asking the right questions. They're asking themselves the right questions, and they know the priority. Most people ask themselves, who are my customers, 97%. To me, the second one is the most critical question they should ask themselves. Is there a need in the market for this product? 95% of them ask themselves this question. So that's a very, very good thing. What I did, I collected hundreds of questions, and then with them, we organized them into groups. So we eventually had 8 groups of a lot of questions, which I summarized into each group into one single question. So I had 8 questions. And then I said to myself, okay, I'm going to write a book that each chapter will be a question. So this is what I did, and the book is going to come out in a couple of months. Each question became a chapter. In each chapter, you have a step-by-step guide into how you answer the question with lean user research that people who are not necessarily researchers, but they want to do research, they want to learn from their audience or intended audience. They don't have time, and in most cases, they don't have money. So that's what I did, and these are the questions that I picked, organized into the stages of development, but yeah, have a look. These are the questions. If you're interested in more information, I have a website, leanresearch.co, and my publisher has a website for me. Everything is going to come out, as I said, in probably early January. Back to the story. So I thought the book is kind of boring, at least for me. So I wanted to write something that was not just telling people how they should do that, although I know they are very interested in that, in how to do that research in the most effective way. I also wanted them to feel how this looks like in real life. So what you heard, the story that I read to you, is all of it is true. All of it happened. I heard all of it in interviews that I had with these people. It just maybe didn't happen to the same 2 co-founders in that period of time, but all of the facts there are true. I heard them multiple times from many, many of the people I interview. Let's move on to lessons learned. So we kindly asked you to tweet one lesson learned from this story. So is it working? Yes. Ooh. So pick one.
Mm-hmm. It's one thing asking the right questions, but you have to ask the right people the right questions.
It's one thing to ask the right questions, but you have to ask the right people. That's a very good one. What else?
How damaging and wasteful it can be to design something that users won't use because we don't listen to and act on their needs.
Again?
How damaging and wasteful it can be.
That's a question. Okay.
Users won't use.
Okay, that's a question. It's not a lesson. A lesson learned is what can we do differently in the future? Can you find something like that?
I've got one saying basically don't ask 7 friends and family members.
Don't ask 7 friends and family members to do your research. Yeah. All right. I will share. There are many, many lessons learned here. I tried to put one in probably once every 2 sentences. But I'm going to share 3 that I think are very important. Do the right thing, then things right. I'll explain. A lot of people who develop products or apps, a lot of people develop apps these days, so they create beautiful and usable apps because people know that it should be beautiful, so they hire visual designers, and they know that they should be usable, so in many cases, they do try their best or hire someone to make sure that usability-wise, the thing is working well. But they develop apps or products or services or whatever that nobody needs. And I think this is what I'm trying to say. This is one thing that I was trying to communicate with this story, is that you first need to do the right thing. Do something that people really need. Then, and I'm not saying it's not important, Then be mindful about doing things right, doing the things in a usable way and in a visually pleasing way. So that's the first thing. The second lesson learned is fall in love with problems first, then with solutions. So I interviewed 200 people. 198 of them were keeping a list of ideas for products, ideas for features, ideas for solutions. Only 2, and I was even surprised to find that there were 2, were keeping a list of problems that they sometime want to solve. And I admire these people. I think you should first know a lot about the problem you're trying to solve. A lot of people who develop products don't even know what problem they're trying to solve. I'm not even talking about falling in love with it. They don't even know. When I ask people, what problem are you trying to solve with this product? You know what they answer? They describe the product. That's not an answer. So know for yourself, ask yourself, what is the problem? What is a problem that we're trying to solve? Then, after you know a lot about it, not just whiteboarding it, when you know a lot about it, doing research about it, not Google search is not research, going out and interacting with your audience or potential audience, learning about the problems first, then solutions. And finally, I touched that now, observe people. Don't just listen to what they say. Okay? It's very tempting to ask people a simple question. Do you need this? Show them this. Talk about this. Describe this. Do you need this? Would you use this? Would you pay for this? How much would you pay for this? You know why they have no idea? They have no idea because we are very bad at predicting the future. The problem is that they'll answer, although they have no idea. I want to show you an example from just 2 days ago. No, Elon Musk? That's what he tweeted 2 days ago. What aesthetic and functionality improvements would you like to see in the 7.1 UI overall? Or new features entirely? Tweeted that. So here are some selected answers. He picked a good day to ask that question. And there were, I think, I stopped after 20 or 30, but there are hundreds of questions, of answers. So some of them are obviously, people trying to make jokes, but some sound good. I mean, this one here, doesn't work. This one here. It sounds like it's pointing a problem, a real problem. And others sound also reasonable. The CarPlay and Android Auto integration sounds reasonable. But this is just people talking about the future without really knowing whether they need this or not. And his answer, by the way, very encouraging too. Good feedback. We're going to do something about it. Anyway, observe behavior. Don't listen to users. They have no idea what they're talking about. It's not a joke. All right, to sum it up, do the right thing first, love your problems first, and observe users. Don't just listen to what they have to say. Thank you. How much time do we have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes for questions. Just one thing. I'm not a person who's wearing these kinds of clothes normally, so later you'll find me with my Brock Lesnar shirt, so find me using that. And please ask me questions. I don't bite, I don't spit. Come forward and ask questions now or later. How are we going to do the questions? Twitter?
I think that's what.
Okay.
So I'll start off with one of my own, just because I'm being greedy. Eric Ries's book, The Lean Startup, has been around for years now. Years.
Years? 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
And in that book, he talks about getting out of the building and speaking to people. Yet, we've still got a massive challenge on our hands trying to get people to go out and do user research, to frame the problem, to find the problem, to develop an app or product to cover something off. After 4 years. And in the valley, where people are throwing millions of dollars at companies with nothing, how can we even start to get them to think of the problem, to move that on, to hopefully make that money more worthwhile?
So, first of all, this is interestingly, one of the questions I had in my interviews to these startup founders was, I presented a list of 5 lean startup related books and asked them, did you read any of, which of these books did you read? And since you can know now that I don't really trust people's answers to questions, I collected their answers, moved on to a different topic, and then after a while, I asked them, what does the term getting out of the building tells you? And if they had no idea what that meant, I pretty much ignored their answers to whether they read any lean startup book. So about, I think 10% really read the books in the lean startup book. So first of all, people just hear about it, maybe hear a talk, think they know what that means, and just do what they want anyway. So that's one reason for why this is happening. Another reason is that a lot of lean startup practitioners, and Eric Ries among them, and I talked with him about it. I mentioned that. I told him, listen, I'm very happy that you wrote this book and that you're talking and everybody's listening because something very interesting is happening here. If you read the book, how many of you read the book cover to cover? Or listened to it, by the way? 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, not a lot. If you read the book as a UX practitioner, this is what we do. This is what we preach for. It's about design. And I told him, I'm very happy that you published this book and that there's a lot of traction because what we UX people have been saying for the past several decades, I guess, without anyone listening, you managed to at least open people's ears. UX people did not touch startups with a 10-foot stick, not getting near startups at all. Now startups look for UX people. And so at least it opened their ears. There's a lot of way to go between listening to something, knowing about it, and actually doing something about it. That's what I'm trying to change. And I think a lot of the methods preached in the Lean Startup book and other books are a part of the solution, not the full solution. So they call for a lot of testing and A/B testing and split testing and multivariate testing and all kinds of testing, but they're just circling around their own ideas. They're not looking for the idea that might solve a real need. So there's still a way to go, and I think that explains why people still don't listen, but more and more people do start doing something.
Sorry, do you think that it starts further up though? Because you've obviously got kind of product managers, kind of UX guys, you are user research guys, but do you think that it starts further up where the people that are funding these ideas and these companies should be thinking about problem?
So I used to be this grumpy UX person that said, yes, they should fund us. But now I'm more conservative. Yes, they should, but they don't in many cases. So there are some things, and this is especially, I'm talking as a researcher here, especially true for researchers. If you are doing research for a client, for a company, There are some things you can control and nobody would say anything to you. So for example, if the client asked you to do, or the company, PMs, whoever, ask you to do a usability test, and you know that usability test is not what they need. They need to do interviews or something else. There's no point in arguing. But what you control is the length of each test session. So do the usability test that they want, 45 minutes, whatever. But then add additional 45 minutes for the interview that you think should have been done. And then these are 90-minute sessions. Nobody would ask, why do you do 90-minute sessions in advance? As you start doing that, and I did that a few times and got some people IMing me, what the hell are you doing? This is not what we talked about. And I was like, oh, no, this is just for our internal department research, whatever. And eventually, they were more interested in the second part than in the first part, because what they really were interested in is what came out of the second part. So this is just a small example from research, but there are ways, bottom-up ways, to do this, even if you're not funded.
Yeah. There's been a lot of discussion, because I've been monitoring Twitter, but there's been a lot of discussion and kind of talk about exactly what you've been saying. When I read the Lean Startup, it was, as you said, it was like, well, this is what we've been doing for years. This is just absolutely normal. And then realize that kind of business owners don't exactly think in the same way. So trying to do that and extending kind of user research time and basically kind of asking for forgiveness rather than anything else after you've done it would probably work. When you did the interviews, did you follow up with many people after a bit of time to see if they'd actually taken what you'd said on board and either pivoted or made progress?
I promised not to nag them. And I'm not even exposing their names because it's too embarrassing for them, I think. But I did try to contact them once with some questions. And, well, it wasn't weird, but it was interesting. Many of the emails bounced, which means that either they did some serious pivot or closed the company. So the answer is probably no, I did not. I'm still in touch with some of them. Some of them understood what I was getting at, and they were interested, but it's just very few, handful.
Yeah. How many user researchers have we got in the room? Can you put your hands up? There's a few, more than I expected. So I've got a bee in my bonnet. Basically, I think user research should be more involved with design, because I think it's all one and the same kind of thing. But please chat with me about it later, because I've got this rant.
I must say something. A lot of people think researchers are best friends with designers. I think it's great, but with designers, at least my experience, you mostly work on the design. With product managers or other people, no matter what you call them, these are the people who are working on the roadmap, who are deciding what to develop. I think these are people we should work with more, because they affect what people need. I mean, they do something about what people need, not necessarily the design itself. Working with designers in terms of research is really important, but that's a difference between what I said earlier, doing the right thing and doing things right.
Yeah, and I think probably Thomas' research has kind of shown that it's not always the case when the product owners and things have actually done user research and went off with that and so on. Any other questions? Because there was a few short on the on Twitter.
I guess no question,
Anybody
because
close
we have
to
a
the
minute. What's that? Mm-hmm. What are the main UX challenges that I have on my table, and what goals did I set? I think I'm probably not going to surprise at least any researcher here. My biggest problem is that people don't want to do research, and when they see the results, they don't want to do anything about it. My goal is very simple, to change that. And we're now trying to do that in many different ways. We have a lot of support from executives. We have a lot of support from middle-level management that are not necessarily UX people. And we're communicating, something new that we started is communicating research results through short videos. So this is another thing that works. People highly prefer watching a 3-minute video than reading a 30-page report.
Brilliant.
That's it. Ask
Thank
me more
you.
questions during the breaks.
Brilliant. And yes, do catch up with Toma after the talk. And thank you very much,
Right.
Toma. Thank you very much.
Thank you.